but there's nothing wrong with writing like, good clips or like telling a little bit if the visuals are well done and it's well paced. Like I really think like people get too stuck in either ditch where they're too visual or they're too telly. So I'm trying to like ride that nice happy medium because like all my favorite cartoons have that nice happy medium.
Welcome back to Inspired Inc., the CWS podcast, a show we promote indie comic creators and become inspired by what they create and their journey of creating it. I'm your host, Brandon Bloxdorf, and today on the show, we have creator Morgan Herron joining us, and we talk about how Saturday morning cartoons influence comic book art, why you should always be excited about the work you produce, and how standing out can strike a chord with audiences. All this and so much more on today's Inspired Inc. What got you involved with like Cosmic Lion and everything?
Yeah, let me show you what started it off for me.
Yeah.
So I went to Heroes Con for the first time. In fact, it was my first Comic Con ever, but it was because I wanted to meet creators because I was trying to like get portfolio reviews. I actually met Brian Stelfreeze, who reviewed my last portfolio and got a lot of good constructive criticism from him. But I was told to meet Kevin Anthony Catalan, who created Space Knights. Mm-hmm. And like the Space Knights book got my attention, but when I saw this fold out and like the production quality of like the Space Knights zine, I knew I really wanted to be a part of Cosmic Lion's brand. So, and I met Eli, who was super nice. After I finished issue 1 of Frankie Boy Monster, he hit me up and said, "Hey, I got a slot if you want to take it, man." And I took it, and yeah, it's been a great experience. I don't think I could ask for a better one.
Oh, dude, that's sick. So, I mean, you're like fresh. And it's one of those things I love talking to. Like, I talk to so many people from different generations, especially on the show. People of all age range, and you're just like fresh out of high school. You're probably like the second youngest person I've interviewed on the podcast at this point.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
But like, what like got you so invested at like such a young age to be like, I mean, you're putting out your first book, a quality book at that. Right where you are. Because Frank Boy's, I mean, it looks beautiful. It's a fun story. We'll talk about it when you give, it resonated with me right away when you pitched it. And it was just like, what got you into like comic books and storytelling? And that really captivated you.
Yeah. For me, it's like, I mean, I can't point to any one thing, but I always loved watching like Saturday morning cartoons because like I grew up in the early 2000s 2010s, so like Cartoon Network was really big for me. And then there was like obviously like the Marvel and DC licenses had their own animated cartoons as well from the 90s to even to this day. So I would catch reruns of like the 90s shows, or I would watch Spectacular Spider-Man, which was big for me, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I had the whole back catalog of the DC animated universe stuff at my disposal, and that stuff captivated me because like I could tell that like yes, it was suitable for children, but then there were moments that like felt real and like not dark in the sense of like dark and gritty, but in the sense of like wow, like there's some real stakes. But like my mom's okay with me watching it because she's enjoying herself too, So like, and I'm trying to make comics with that flavor of like I'm not making stuff that would be like risky for like a kid to read or watch, but still I'm not talking down to them because even like C.S. Lewis, who's a big inspiration to me for many reasons, he even said that if you want to write for children, you don't talk down to them. Like you tell them that, hey, evil is evil and good is good, and like even though the evil can seem like very daunting and insurmountable, there's still like good that's going to triumph over it, Oh,
that's awesome, dude. That's cool that you're pointing out like a reference like that too. What got your attention first, like writing or drawing? What avenue did you start like really going after?
For me, like I don't know, because like for me they're not too separate. Like I know they are, but they're not to me. Because like it all starts with like an idea, which is just words in your head, and then if you draw it, like for me, like drawing influences writing and vice versa. So they always come back to each other. So I'll come up with an idea and I'll draw it. Like I drew Frankie my sophomore year of high school. Then I revamped him this past summer. And when I made him a kid, like it kind of clicked for me. And after I drew him, that gave me the inspiration to write the story. And then I wrote the first short story, and then I started drawing like more characters and more monsters in my sketchbook, and then writing the next round of short stories that then compile into issue one. So it like to me, like, I don't know, it's hard to like describe like which one starts and which one. It feels like a chicken and egg scenario where
Yeah.
like there's not a clear line at like which one actually starts, because like I've always drawn, but I've always came up with ideas, which is just words in your head anyways, and images a little
Hmm.
bit, and then they kind of come out at the same time for me. So like to me they're no different from each other in like how it formulates up here and then how they influence each other. But I'm also like a cartoonist, so like I'm a writer artist, so maybe I'm a
Hmm.
little bit biased, but I feel like they shouldn't be treated too different from each other.
I mean, it sounds like you just have the mindset of a storyteller. You know,
Yeah.
you envision it, you feel it, you hear it. It's like however it processes, however you can get it out, it's going to come out that way.
Yeah.
And it's so great that you're dabbling into like you see it that way, because dabbling
Yeah.
into the visionary aspect of it is what helps every writer help make a script, but you're also bringing it to life. So it just sounds like you're a craft person, or you're shaping yourself
It
to be
is.
a
Yeah.
craft person.
It is.
Like
Because like,
what oh no, go on.
oh
You're
no,
good.
it's all good. Because like I said, like there's no like difference to me, and it's just like I don't really think of myself as an illustrator. I feel weird when people try to call me an artist or illustrator. I just like the idea of like I'm making these stories that kind of brings me back to my childhood feelings, and then it
Mhm.
comes out in the work, and then it just so happens like, oh yeah, I did have to draw it for it to be in someone's hands, but also there's some words to aid in the storytelling and some of the beats. Because like to me,
Mhm.
like I know there's some people that are like, show don't tell, or there are people that get lost in the telling too much. I'm trying to find that happy medium of like, yeah, I want to show a little bit, but there's nothing wrong with writing like, good clips, or like telling a little bit if the visuals are well done and it's well paced. Like I really think like people get too stuck in either ditch where they're too visual or they're
Mhm.
too telly. So I'm trying to like ride that nice happy medium, because like all my favorite cartoons have that nice happy medium. Minus like Primal by Jendy Tartakovsky. It's just all visuals, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I'm not him yet, so
Is that like, actually, you're naming him out of all people. I feel like that's I'm trying to find something that clicks that I can relate your art with. And I feel like
I
that
love
would
Mike
be the
Mignola.
perfect comparison. Okay, there we
I love
go.
Mike
I could see
Mignola.
that with
Very
some of
cowboy
your
guy.
inking.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
your inking kind of reflects that a whole lot.
Yeah, I do more thick and thins, but I use
Mhm.
like Futasanake Tombow brush pens for those bolds. But I love a good tech pen. Like I hope to get to a point where everything I draw is just with a tech pen and a brush. Like I really hope I can. Like I don't
That's
mind
sick.
like the fuss of like thick and thins, but like I don't know. To me, like there's such a craft and mastery with just that one pen line in the
Dude,
brush with blacks.
I
There's
feel
something
you.
beautiful about it, and it's
Whenever
simplistic.
I've been drawing, yeah, exactly. Whenever I got really into like Lone Wolf and Cub, and
Oh,
once I
dude,
realized that
I
that was,
discovered that my sophomore year of high school.
oh, dude, yeah, and you realize that that's all done with a brush. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's just a singular brush. And so now when
Mhm.
I've been doing my inks or anything like that, I'm using one of two pens, and they're both
Yeah.
brush pens. And one is a bit thicker and one's a bit thinner. But like I really am trying to get down just to that vibe and that style. I have my
Yeah.
like, I don't know where my other ones, my microns and my whole selection of stuff like
Mhm.
that. But which is cool. I love it. But
Yeah.
narrowing it down just made it simpler for my brain. And I'm just
Mhm.
training myself and my hand to work on those brush strokes.
Yeah. I really think like, and like I was talking to Tony McMillan over at IC3, and he's a big
Mhm.
believer in this too, but like we both believe that like limitations breed more creativity, where if you
Yep.
regulate yourself to a few things, your brain has to problem solve. Okay, I have X amount of pens, I have this paper, I have this story. How do I solve this puzzle? And like to me, every story is that puzzle. And I like thinking in those terms. And like I always try to draw every single page as its own unique design, because like
Mhm.
I'm kind of like Mike Mignola in the sense of like I think of not just trying to draw one like sexy panel and then like a few kind of crappy panels. Like I'm trying
Mhm.
to think of like, okay, how do I make this whole page a strong design element that leads you from page to page to page in that one issue? Like that's kind of how I approach my design.
That's awesome. We're talking about Tony too, because we just had him on the show. I just
Oh,
finished
he's
interviewing
amazing.
him. It's so great, so much fun. And that we talked about it precisely that was just, oh, yeah, there you go. All of Tony's
Dude,
books are
read this
phenomenal,
for
dude.
read Attaboy first, then I ordered Lumen, and he threw this in the mail for me out of friendship, and he drew a Frankie pinup for me too.
Oh,
So it's gonna be an
sick.
issue
Dude, that's
too.
awesome. Dude,
Yeah,
that's so cool. Dude,
connections have
yeah,
been
it's
great.
yeah, I can't imagine like, for someone who's putting out your books and like doing what you're doing and being involved with Cosmic Lion like so fast and so early, it's just,
Yeah,
almost in probably an overwhelming amount of just like creative input and advice and people to seek out.
yeah,
I mean, there's so many good people. We just had Rick Lopez on the show and we talked to
yeah.
Eli
I
Schwab,
watched, love that
great
interview.
dude.
Love both
Dude, and they're
those
so
interviews.
great dudes. I
Yeah,
love them to death. Phenomenal, like just humans, And again,
yeah.
like Tony's a dude. I had
So
seen
kind.
Tony's work previously, and when we talked about his inking process and how mistakes
Mhm.
happen and how he flows with that, it's really a true way of just being an artist and just letting
Yeah,
whatever happens on the page just kind of flow
happen.
through and crafting with that.
Yeah, next issue I'm gonna try and put these parallel pens to use because I've had them for a
Oh,
while, and
cool.
he kind of got, man, like when I started reading his stuff, I was getting an itch. I was like, man, I know I shouldn't ink it like straight with the parallel pen, but I should try at least a few implements with it. But he kind
They're
of put
a lot of fun. When I was first doing my
they're
like
emotional.
experimenting with pens and like figuring out what worked and what I liked and what like, I don't like with thickness and everything, dude,
Yeah,
those flathead ones were just like the funnest thing for me. I just feel like you're kind of chipping away at stuff and just like,
yeah.
I don't know, it's a weird movement, but I could cover more ground with it. If I was going to use anything but a brush, it'd probably be that type of flathead.
I'd like to imagine like Tony is like swinging it like a samurai sword when he's creating stuff. Like I know it's probably not that sexy like in real time, but like I like to imagine that that's what he's doing. Like he's up swinging it with his arm, and it's like a samurai sword. Like I like to think of it like that.
That's it'd be fun to make like a comic about like other comic creators making comics and how you perceive them making comics, and
Yeah,
that would just be a fun
yeah,
like panel to like, bring to life and whatnot.
yeah,
How do you
for
how do
sure.
you start your process? When it comes down, you have a lot of animation influences.
Mhm,
You do have a lot of comic book influences, of course, but like how
mhm.
do you start your thought process when you start laying out the page, especially when you're experimenting with
Yeah.
panels and everything like that too?
So I'll start with my writing process then. So
Hmm.
obviously, like I have these characters in mind, and I draw them in my sketchbooks. I do like little spot illustrations of them. I then, when I script, I don't type full script because I get bored personally. Like I can't sit down and type because I also repeat myself. And what's the point of repeating visuals that you're writing down when you're going to draw them? And I feel like if you do that too much, you're gonna keep making stale panels. So what I
Oh,
do is I learned this method from Jim Rugg.
oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, he what he does is when he writes his stuff, he learned this from a creative writing class that to create like this when he's stuck like with an image in his head of the story, he will write that one image down on a note card, and he'll get a bunch of other note cards and start like writing the events that follow after that event and before. So then he creates
Mhm.
this timeline of the story, and then it helps him figure out, okay, so this is the story, I can maybe move this here, move this back here, and it's just this timeline that he creates, and then he starts creating the story. In my case, like it doesn't necessarily happen in the middle, but I do script with note cards because I can move a beat here and then I can move another beat here, and then I can start comfortably thumbnailing, and then that's when I try to like not commit to it because it still stays kind of organic because I'm not going to pages yet, but then I start thumbnailing, adjusting dialogue, moving some pieces here and there. And even when I start actually drawing a page, sometimes a layout will change slightly because David Mazzucchelli said to keep your process as organic as possible if you're a cartoonist, because like in writing class, they tell you to not get too precious or attached to what you create and to
Yeah.
not be afraid of killing your darlings. So sometimes I'll straight up remove a panel, or I will move a panel in a better place, or redesign the whole page, or at least half a tier of the page if need be,
Mm.
if that's what the story is asking me to do. Because like I think too many like creators probably like ignore their channel out of maybe ego, and I attribute that more
Yeah.
to like straight up writers. But you need to, when you're creating, you need to serve the story and let
Mhm.
ego go, let your vision go, or at least what you thought was your vision go, and commit to the reality that is on the paper in front of you.
Yeah, dude, I mean, that's great stuff to like know and realize at this point too. I love how many like name references you've been dropping this whole time because
Yeah,
being,
I'm a
someone
student.
of like your caliber and just knowing your craft and knowing like people of your craft to be studying.
I'm a
That's what's
student, man.
exciting,
I'm a student for life.
and that's where you got to be as a creator.
Yeah.
You really, I feel the same exact way. Like I'm never not learning about comics or making comics, and I
Yeah.
think that's the funnest thing about doing the show is that I am consistently having conversations where I'm just learning about comics. And when I'm going back to my craft and digging through stuff, it's just constant studying. You have an endless supply of things to like go through, and you're never probably going to get through it all, which is heartbreaking in a sense. But like knowing like that mindset and keeping that student mindset, I feel is like where, a lot of indie creators have the longest, rate of success, because if you don't stop, learning and pushing yourself and challenging things, then you're challenging your mindset, like you're probably going to get stale. And it sounds like that's how you're staying fresh with that. So how do you, when you're working on your actual, like when you're going to the page, you have it kind of thought out in your head, you have the script going on. What are you doing to attack this panel creation and your beats in your story? What are you thinking about, like story structure and stuff like that? I know some people really take that heavy, but it
Yeah.
sounds like you might with how you're rearranging some of your story with the note cards and everything.
Not like traditional story structure. I mean, yes, there's a beginning, middle, and end, but I kind of like pacing my stuff. It's hard to describe. Like it's like, yes, I think of like an issue's length has a beginning, middle, end. But what I'm doing is like I'm kind of curating my comic book like a Saturday morning cartoon, where like how like in some shows they'll have like 2 stories in one episode and stuff like that. Issue 1 has like 3 short stories. This issue 2 I'm working on has a main feature that's 26 pages and a follow-up short story that's 4 pages. I kind of think of obviously like the beginning and middle and end of that, but when I watch like the best of Saturday morning cartoons that do that, they are giving you these small character moments that like audience members can probably ignore, but shouldn't, because you're establishing things that can then pay off later. And I'm building up to a main storyline that I'm getting to that has been rattling in my head for a long time. And that's kind of how I think about it, is like each of these individual stories are going to build up to the thing I'm trying to get to, if that makes sense. And also a big thing honestly, for me is like composition as well.
Nice, dude. Yeah, I have the same exact mindset. I've kind of briefly talked about it before, but I'm doing this series called Fake Your Death. And the way I'm organizing it is that it's about 4 main characters, but I'm doing individual short stories with those characters to kind of develop the world in my head and understand them a bit more before taking on this big issue 1. And once I started doing that with all of like our anthologies we published with Apollo, I've been doing anthology short pieces to understand the world. And so anywhere from 2 to like 4 pages, 6 pages. That way I'm building that world, building those characters, and having stories in that universe come out while I build up to the issue 1, like in issue 2 story, So building it small and like letting it kind of flesh out your world more and more. I mean, dude, that's perfect practice on just storytelling 101. Like I think that's probably what's advancing you so quickly to start small and get big at that point.
And like, I think like I face this a lot because I'm a college student, and I run with like other freshman artists, and like they're not like I have a couple of friends, and I'm not going to name names just out of professionalism.
Oh yeah,
but like they're so afraid to finally tackle their story, and I'm just like, guys, like start small and make pages. If you keep confining yourself to this big thing you have in your head, you're never going to start. And that is actually worse than making a quote unquote like not good comic book. Like you're better off taking a risk and maybe making a comic that kind of has some wonkiness here and there, and then finally getting the ball rolling and then cleaning up your craft as you go, than just not starting at all. Like I think that to me is like worse. Like not starting at all is worse than making a quote unquote bad comic.
Dude, yeah, because like what is a bad comic at that point, especially as indie creators? Like how do we define a bad comic? You have to hit a mark like really offbeat for us to consider something bad. I think and I think a lot of people don't realize this either, especially early creators, is that they're trying to either do something big, like their big opus story that they've been focusing on forever, or they're just trying to do this giant project like you're saying. But it's like, no matter what you make and what we're doing, people are going to love it and they're going to admire it and they're going to support it because, those creators who are making comics and those of us who have like put a couple things out, like we know how difficult it is. So it doesn't matter what you do. We just like seeing a finished product that you could go out there and show. And if more creators just understood that and thought about that and just realized like it's hard, we all know it's hard, but just finish your story and put it out.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the quality. The quality could be, good, bad. That's judgmental. That's like, up to the reader and but learn from it then. If you felt like you made a bad comic, a quote unquote bad comic, like make your next one better. Challenge yourself, keep pushing yourself. But you got to know the process and know how difficult it was to put out that one issue before you could be like, okay, I know how to make this better now. Like,
because they're just growing.
We all grow. At the end of the day. Yeah. Dude, total growing pains. And we look at these books that are manufactured by these big, companies, and they have this pristine format, this storytelling, and we just expect that whatever we put out needs to be on that caliber and level. It's like, no, go down a couple notches and then look at this other array of comics that are totally different, like indie books and other different publications, and you'll realize like just finish it and put it out. I'm reading this fun book right now. It's called Henry and Glenn. It's about Henry Rollins and Glenn Danzig. It's like a fun romance story between the two because they're both punk legends. And it's one of those things where it has a very big array of different like art styles. And all of them. Oh, here's a fun like Mike Mignola like homage to it too. But like, dude, none of these are
cool.
Right? Yeah.
They're from like the devil.
Oh, sick. Yeah.
I love
dude, there's some like art styles that like I don't agree with, but that doesn't make it bad. It's just different, and you got to play with that different your art style. Very different. I wouldn't say it's bad, and you're growing. And so it's hard to say that this is amazing because I want to see what you're doing in a year. I want to see the next, stuff of Frankie because like I'm sure you're evolving with every single page you work on.
Yeah. Dude, like this next issue, I'm gonna have my first published splash page, and like I for issue 1, I didn't want to have any because like I feel like there's so many people that kind of get lost in like making splashes that they kind of get a little lazy. So like this next issue is gonna be my first published splash page, and like that alone like gets me excited. But like, but also like more story ideas are formulating because like when I created issue 1, I kind of didn't know where it was going till I made the final short story, and then everything kind of clicked. And then this big story that has kind of been in me, but I didn't know the details, is starting to finally like rear its head. And then working on issue 2, my ideas for 3 and 4 are starting to formulate. So I have a notebook and I'm creating a little bit of a timeline, and it's building and building. I'm just I'm excited to read the next issues of Frankie. I might be a little biased, but I think you have to be excited about what you're making.
Yeah, you do. You really do. Because if it's not exciting, it's hard to sit down and go and do it. Because I mean, just like, you're in a situation that's similar to anyone else making comics. Like you're busy with your day life, which is like college. And I don't know if you have a day job, but you might have a day job on top of that and then you go home and you have to work on your own personal projects. Like I'm sure Frankie isn't your only homework assignment that you get to do. So you have to find the energy
at the end of the semester, man. And like, but that is, I do want to bring this up though to people that are kind of like not stuck. I don't mean this in any negative way at all. Like I'm trying to be like very encouraging here because it's true.
Oh yeah.
Like even if you have a day job or even if you have a day life and like, and then drawing is second, that doesn't mean you're not an artist at heart. And that does not mean that that's not the legacy you're going to leave behind. You're just paying your dues till you get to a certain point where you can hopefully figure out how to make it sustainable.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, well, there was something else I was kind of going with that. And with every step you take, you're just going to get closer to where you want to be. Like there's some things going on behind the scenes at Cosmic Lion that I can't wait for Eli to announce, but it's looking really good for the Cosmic Lion scene right now. So I'm really excited.
It's about sticking it out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Making comics is difficult. Publishing comics is really difficult. Like navigating the waters into success and figuring out what success means to you besides like in the income aspect of it, and to like find that success measure to keep you going. And I mean, Eli's been at it for a while and he's been nonstop and he's gone through a lot and he's navigated through a lot of the waters, but the passion is there and the determination is there. And if and the drive. And if you just keep showing up and doing your work, you're gonna hit something. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna
Yeah.
find a wall. You're gonna find something you could overcome. And some of the
Yeah.
hard things that were difficult a year or 2 years ago may get more possible and easier as you keep growing and you keep doing it. But it's just like
Yeah.
sticking it through, and that's where it does get difficult for a lot of people because your personal life may really interfere, but it's
Yeah.
how you bounce back and how you try to find your love and like solace
Mhm.
for art and comics
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, because like when I'm done with like homework and stuff, like I'm just I'm not those kind of creatives that like if they have a day job, like I'm drained. For me, like
Mhm.
getting back to the drawing board is like very pleasurable, and it's just like okay, I had like not even like a bad day, but like I had a busy day. I'm gonna decompress. I'm gonna sling some ink. I'm going to design some pages. I'm gonna color a little bit in it, and I'm gonna have fun. And I'm gonna go back into that like that childhood like kind of like mode of just creating, that a lot
Mhm.
of people unfortunately suppress, but it shouldn't be suppressed, I think.
Or yeah, suppressed in a few ways, especially, discouragement of what's coming out of like their hand, or especially when you start, how long does it, when you pick up your pen, and it may have changed over the years because you've been doing this for a bit, but like your first drawing that you start off with, your first 5 minutes is probably not the thing you're going to look to like publish and show and share with everybody. Like you have to like, it's just like working out. It's just like almost
Yeah.
anything you do. You kind of need to warm up. You kind of need to get your brain flowing. You kind of need to get into the groove and everything. And I think a lot of people stop in their first 5 minutes of picking up a pen, and they're
Yeah.
like, I don't like where this is going. I don't like how this looks. And they're too ashamed to just like throw it away and try again. Like you need to
Yeah.
fall and then try it again and then just fall again and then just keep on going at it. And then you're going to realize like, oh, I've done this 8 times, 20 times. It's looking amazing now, but it's
Yeah.
taken X amount of efforts and X amount of time and hours for it to look like this.
And like I don't know, like that kind of thing is why I identify a little bit in some ways with like say a Jack Kirby, though he's not necessarily a direct influence on my style. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was 16 or 18 when he started. He had to draw comic strips and was even, I think he helped with like ECC Gar's like Popeye strips and stuff like that till he finally started to make Captain America, and then he finally started to work on the 60s Marvel comics, and then he created like New Gods. Like he just kept drawing, and he couldn't
Mm-hmm.
afford to not bang it out. Like even if a little
Yeah.
something here was kind of like wonky, like if an arm was kind of drawn a little odd, like it didn't matter because he had to bang it out for his own survival. And like for me, a part of like my survival is like just trying to keep my vision of like what I'm creating alive. So I
Mm-hmm.
I forced myself, like that's why like my stuff is very bold and graphic. I force myself to like I do a quick like kind of gesture in blue, but then I put that final like pencil line down on tracing paper, and that's my penciling process. And then I hit it with like my nice illustration board on top, a light pad, and then I ink. So like I force myself to put down these long bold lines just
Oh,
to get
man.
it done, but then to also kind of create like these strong compositions, even if they're a little
Oh, that
wonky. It
makes
doesn't
sense.
matter because, like, I believe, and that's funny enough that this is the tagline of my comic is that like comics is an art form that's like greater than the sum of its parts. Like it's
That makes sense.
every individual panel comes together into a story, and there's so many people that I think criticize like these little wonky parts, and it's just like that's not the point at all. You're missing the point. You're missing the whole of the story, and that goes for like even when you're creating something, and if something's a little wonky, okay, tighten it up next issue. It's fine. No one's no one. This isn't life or death, guys. This is comics.
Yes, yeah, there's that, and nobody's gonna go and bash your, like, especially like a book like yours. No one's gonna turn to page 8 or 10 and be like, look at this one bad panel. Forget this book and just toss it out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like that's but they look at it and they're looking at the whole of the story, the
Unless I
whole of
used
the
AI.
composition. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a different thing. If you're using AI, then you just get out of here. Like you're probably not watching this show anyways.
I'm not. I'm not. I
But
used
it's
it.
like
Okay,
you're right.
I used it once, not for publishing, but I used it to.
Mhm.
I'm actually doing an essay on the creative class's struggle amidst like the AI strikes in like Hollywood, and
Oh,
so I
nice. Yeah.
did download like a Chat GPT kind of thing, and I typed in some prompts, and I just got angry, and I was just like, this is terrible, this is horrendous, and I turned it off, downloaded it completely because I was curious like what's the fuss about, and it was not worth those 8 minutes of my time. But at least I kind of figured out like how does it work, and it kind of gives me a better
Mhm.
idea of how I'm going to write my essay. But
Yeah, there's, I mean, I've always thought of AI being something like, you have a guitar, for example, and then you plug your guitar into a phaser pedal, and now your guitar has this phaser effect on it.
Mhm.
And to me, if you use AI as a tool and not the instrument, that's different from using it to, that's a whole difference right there. Like I've had a creator reach out to me and say, like, hey, we submitted to an anthology. I know you said no AI, but we used an AI tool to help with some of the coloring. And when I looked at the page and the way the coloring came out, it was
Mhm.
this wild, insane thing. And it was just like, oh, okay, I get what you guys mean. And that's when I kind of clicked in my head. I was like, they didn't use it to color it. They used it to help like transform the image a little bit and alter the image, just like you would like with Procreate and a Procreate
Yeah.
pen that does all your zipatone or all your Kirby dots and whatnot like that.
Yeah.
They're using it as a tool, not as the instrument itself, or saying like, I have this finished thing, but it's all AI. Like when you're using it to create out of a whole project, that's an
Yeah.
issue because you're not putting any input. And if you're using it to like use it more than just like a small part or just like more than a tool and use it as the instrument that you're using to compose, that's the issue. I mean, I've used
And
it to like
here's
give me a
some proof
format
that
for
I'm not
resumes.
using AI real quick.
Oh, dude, yeah, your physical
Yeah.
artwork is beautiful, man. And
Yeah, I
and
love
that's a
reading
cool
on
thing,
paper.
doing everything traditional. How do you do
Yeah.
your coloring actually? I'm real curious
I
about.
use Photoshop and I use the polygonal lasso tool. It's actually what the
Oh, cool.
polygonal lasso tool is, just like the lasso tool, but it's angular. It's what Dave Stewart used to color Umbrella Academy, which I love. I love Umbrella Academy and I love
Yeah, same.
Gabriel Paz art. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's very efficient
That's
for me. So, and I use the
that's
pure
so
palette from
cool.
Photoshop. So
So when you're going into like you scan your images in and you do everything, you do all your pencils and inks traditionally, and then you scan
yeah.
them in, and then just run through Photoshop like that. Do you use your computer or like
Mhm.
iPad for things like that?
I use a computer at the moment. I don't have a good iPad yet, but because I'm, college student on a budget.
Yeah, I
So
feel you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Stuff's expensive, dude. I feel you. Especially art
yeah,
supplies, no matter what caliber you're kind of messing with. That's fun. I always love hearing what programs people use because there's
yeah,
just, I mean, Clip Art Studio, Photoshop,
yeah.
Procreate. Like these are some things that industries, professionals use, that indie professionals use. And it's cool seeing where you're leaning towards with that.
Yeah,
Because the coloring on Frankie Boy really just pops. That was the thing
yeah,
that got my attention about it too. Was like the coloring itself, very
yeah.
just in your face. What made you go along those like tones and that format?
For me, it was just more like an allergic reaction to coloring I don't like. you know?
Nice, nice.
Like my motto is you're better off creating the thing you actually want to see than what's actually popular.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I've seen enough dull coloring to last a lifetime. So I'm trying to bring a little bit more life to coloring,
That's cool. It
and
works. It
also
works. It
to
makes
stand out. But
yeah,
yeah, that's why also I don't like airbrush things to death because like I've seen enough like Procreate drawn airbrush effects to last me a
oh
lifetime.
yeah,
Like I'm good. I'm good. Like I think it's kind of a similar thing to like guys who grew up in the '90s seeing like bad gradients and radio blurs, like starting to
yeah,
push against that once they became creators. I kind of have a similar thing with like certain tools in Procreate that kind of bother me. I'm not saying like if you airbrush your stuff to death, like that's not good. I've seen like too much of it to where I'm just like
yeah.
my art has had an allergic reaction to those aesthetics and it's kind of gone the opposite direction. you
I
know,
mean, that's good because in a way that's influenced you. And like that's one of those things you got to like figure out as a creator. Like what do I like and what do I not like? Like
which
what
is totally
flavors am I.
fine.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
style. It's a palette. It's your personal choice. You know what I mean? To me,
yeah,
like that's part of like your diet that you kind of feed yourself. You're kind of pulling from something and you're like, this is my favorite food. I'm gonna eat
mhm,
this and it works really well for my body and my body type. So I'm just gonna keep doing this. And that's what you're doing with your books. Like you're finding the palette that works, you're finding the meal that just fuels your art and it keeps it
mhm.
exciting and vibrant. It really brings it to life. I mean, once I
Thank you.
saw that cover and the way you have it displayed and everything, I was like, I
Yeah,
want to see more of this. It makes you want to
yeah,
explore your book.
dude. Like I was selling so many copies of like Frankie Boy Monster. It was really phenomenal to sell as much as I did at the convention. Like it felt really good because like when I'm not there, like Eli sold like 6, but at that show I sold 24. And like I think like my makeshift banner of the issue 1 cover alone got people's attention. I guess like it's
Yeah.
a cover with like yellow, magenta, and green. and it's so vibrant. Like, how can it not, like, I guess, beg for your attention? But I think that's just kind of my art. It's just like, hey, look at me, and if you want to, jump on board, then jump on board. But if it's not for you, then take a hike. That's kind of like what I kind of go for my art. Like, if I'm your flavor, great. If I'm not, oh, I'll see you.
It's kind of the way you have to approach it too. You know what I mean? It's like you can't be offended by someone not appreciating your taste or your style. It's like, oh, it sucks. You know what I mean? But then again, you're gonna find the audience that not everyone likes pineapple on pizza. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I like pineapple
I
on
hate
pizza.
pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, I love pineapple on pizza. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like it's our own, palate, it's our own taste, and that's cool that you accept that too. Because I think a lot of creators feel like hurt when their books aren't selling. And I think a lot of creators are feeling like upset when they're not making movements or they're not making strides. But it's like you just haven't found that niche or that audience, or you haven't like possibly even differentiated yourself enough to stand out to be your own flavor. Like if you're doing, cookies and cream, but then everyone else is doing cookies and cream, but then you come in over here and you're like mint chocolate. Like that's why you're standing out, because you're the fresh flavor out of the bunch.
Yeah, and I mean, my thing is like an all ages monster comic, and like I don't think a lot of indie creators are taking advantage of the whole like all ages thing because they want to go for like more mature stuff. And don't get me wrong, I'm an adult that reads comics, so I do like adult oriented comics. But I think there's so much validity in stuff aimed for kids, and that's a demographic we need to be reaching. Because guess what, manga is reaching for them. So why are we not filling this vacuum?
Yep. Dude, you're right. And honestly, like even with Apollo, like I know all of my books are like adult mature readers and whatnot. And I've always been like, I need to figure out like how to crack this code or find the idea in me that's like going to work for an all ages type of group. It's as an indie creator, if you're trying to find, like, we talk about it a lot, like talking about variety on your table. And, sometimes we talk about genre stuff and we talk about, this book does this, but this book does this, but it's all still aimed at like the same age range and audience. Like if you really want to be an indie creator to open up your demographic, do whatever you want, but also like throw in that like all ages or even younger kid focused book, because doing that a couple times is going to really open up stuff for you. And it's going to, if you talk about diversity at the table, that's what's going to like bring more people in. And you got to get those kids that are just walking around with their parents in their little outfits and whatnot. Like, just being like, this is my first con. And like you're 7 and 8, 10, 13, 12. Like those are the people you want to get. Like the kids are just having fun and having imagination.
The new generation as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Though it is funny. More adults have bought my comic than kids at the moment, but a lot of those adults did also buy it to read with their kids, which was really cool. Like I had a professor that ordered a copy of Frankie, and he read it with like his 2 sons, and they said they had a blast and they were looking forward to the second one. So that like stories like that is like what the book was for. Because for anyone that doesn't know, Frankie Boy Monster is about a 12-year-old monster boy named Frankie and his mad scientist's dad named Dr. Fritz Lang. They go on misadventures and they fight the real monsters, but at its heart, it's about a single dad and his son. And like, I was raised by my mom. She was a single parent since I was like a year and a half or 2. So like I'm trying to create this story that kind of has the like that I connect with, and that I kind of wish was a story that was there for me to connect with when I was little. So I'm trying to create that, seeing like, will anyone else connect with that?
That makes sense. That's so cool that you went that avenue. Like that story resonated with me right when you pitched it to me, because like I grew up with me and just my dad, and it's been like that since, about the same age, like what you were saying. Like I was around like, 1.5, 2 years old, and it's always just been me and my dad. So like picking up your book, I was like, this looks fun because this is like my story. I am curious, like on a personal level, like why did you go that route especially when you like, I met your mom. She's an amazing woman. You're very supportive, very interactive. Like we even follow each other on Instagram now. She's so sweet. She's so like supportive and proud of your work in the community. And so why did you go that route? Like, I'm really curious why you chose the characters like that.
Well, the whole like single parent and kid thing, like I couldn't shake it for a long time. Like every story I created had that dynamic, but I couldn't find the right, I guess, genre or the right characters. And I kept searching and searching, sketchbook drawing after sketchbook drawing, until I stumbled upon Frankie again, and I revamped it. And I was also kind of like not being honest with myself, because my style was starting to evolve into a place that was not unlike a Mike Mignola, because he's very shapy and graphic, and my art's very shapy and graphic. So I was really nervous that if I did the whole drawing monsters thing, people would just write me off as a Mignola clone. But when I finally accepted like I do like drawing monsters. I do like drawing, pretty stuff occasionally. Like I can draw a decent flower. I can draw a decent like white lily or whatever. But I do like drawing things with pointy teeth or like with the wonky horns or whatever, because there are scary things in this world. But so I finally like stopped like lying to myself about what I actually wanted to create genre wise, along with a story that's been deep in me for, I guess, the past like 19 years of my life. And they finally collided together into what I'm currently working on.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I mean, again, it's so cool hearing that from someone of your age as well. You know what I mean? Like you're really taking
I get that a lot.
to make a story like that, dude. Yeah, because to take a story like that and to like comprehend it, to like think it through, and to find a purpose and the value behind it, that takes a lot. And it usually takes a lot of life experience to be able to convey such like a deep, like, thought out like message at that point too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and making comics is not easy for anyone, no matter what you're doing or how you're doing it. And so you taking this upon yourself, you had a goal. You were telling me at IC3 that you're talking about the turtle creators, and how
Yeah.
weren't you saying like you were trying to beat their goal by
Just to
being
get
published
published at
by
18. My goal is to get published at 18, just like Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Like that was the goal since my freshman year of high school. And I almost gave up, but HeroesCon happened. I kept in touch with Eli. He kept watching me from afar, seeing my artistic growth. And then eventually I drew the last page of Frankie, and he hit me up on that day. I drew the last page, and he said, "Hey man, like, do you still need a publisher?" And I got in, and yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't like paint a rosy picture, because like I said, I was about to give up, but I was
What
reinvigorated with a
what was
story.
making
And
you want to give up? Like what
oh
walls were you hitting
yeah,
to hit that point?
because I just had made before Frankie, I drew about like 60 pages worth of comics, and I was just frustrated that I wasn't finding the right story, and like my voice was still, I guess, growing. And then I thought, like, man, like maybe I should just like throw in the towel and like let the adults run amok, because I'm just some kid from Tennessee, and like what do I have to offer? And I just got really discouraged till I actually, funny enough, like oh gosh, I'm about to jump on the DWJ hype train, but I met Daniel Warren Johnson at HeroesCon, and I was buying Murder Falcon from him, and I got his minis, but the Venmo card didn't go all the way through. So he actually gave it to me for free. And it's that deluxe image hardcover of Murder Falcon. He let me have it for free,
Oh,
which that
sick.
meant a lot. Like, not only did that mean a lot, but once I actually finally read the story at home, um, I yeah, I read the story, and if you read it, it's about this guitar player named Jake who, sorry, spoilers, but
Oh yeah.
he got cancer, and he gave up the one thing he loved for a long time, and he found this, I guess, this spark and this reason to get back on the horse. And then after reading that, I was like, it kind of kicked me in the butt to get back on the horse, because then I was also reading the rest of my haul from HeroesCon. I was like, no, I need to stick through this. Like, don't give up. Like, and so I took a step back from making pages, though. I recreated and remodeled Frankie after I found him again in an old sophomore year sketchbook. And then the idea came out, and then I drew all 24 of those pages in 4.5 weeks while working at Dunkin' Donuts over the summer, and then drawing, like, in my off hours and at night and stuff like that. And then it came about, and then I colored it the first little bit of the first semester of my freshman year, and it hit print in October. So, and my birthday was in November the 24th. So I did officially get published in October when I was 18 years old. So I did hit that goal.
Sick.
And then when Eli shipped out the orders, a lot of the people, like all the people that ordered in Tennessee, including my mom, got Frankie Boy Monster on my birthday on November 24th, which was really cool. So,
Oh, cool, man. It just sounds, I mean, it's one of those things. It sounds like the stars aligned in your favor, and like you had this big stroke of luck and all this stuff. But like
it didn't feel like
we could
it at the
definitely go
time.
down that route. But it's like, dude, there's a lot of hard work that went into that. And to even hear like you're working on this, you put all this effort into it, and you're just like, I'm stuck. Like, and that's where a lot of people again stop, where they're just like, I'm stuck. I don't know how to fight the mental block that you get when you hit that point, and to overcome it, and to take a step back and be like, okay,
A lot.
I do want to do this. I do want to set myself up. I do want to make this a future, and it hurts right now, but how do I keep going? And then you're rehashing stuff. You're going back to, you're having a magical moment with the creator, which is always one of the coolest things in the world to really inspire you. And then you read a story they create that continues to fuel you. Dude, that's a
Yeah.
great, like, that doesn't take any, whatever type of effort. That takes a lot
Yeah.
of like, self introspection and just like reanalyzing like your thought process, your mental, your capabilities. There's a lot that goes into that mentally and like physically to like push past those barriers, because those barriers could really shut people down. And
Yeah.
sometimes that could put a project on hold indefinitely. But
Or
like
whole
fighting
careers.
through that, whole careers, you're right. I've talked to creators where similar things have happened and they've hit a wall and then they don't do anything for 5-10 years, and then they jump back and then they're like, now I'm finally making comics. And that's awesome. I love that story. But it's
Yeah.
good that you hit that wall and like got shot down and were stuck. And then you're like, you know what? I just got to reevaluate how I think about this. And, going back to old sketchbooks and ideas and re-inspiring yourself and looking back at like, I've worked so hard. How can I just pull from what I have and just, like you said, start your story and finish it? And it sounds
Yeah.
like that's where you're hitting and you're pushing, and you get that success, you realize you can do it. It's going to keep coming and happening. It's not your first book. It's not your last
Yeah.
book. It sounds like
Yeah.
you're fueled from here.
Oh man, I'm having a great time. And that doesn't mean like there won't be like small hiatuses where I have to regather my thoughts and like think of the next story. Cause like I know where I'm going up to issue 4, but that's not the
Mhm.
end. Cause I'm building up, cause like I know where I want this to end, but there's stuff in the middle that I need to explore. And once I get to issue 4 though, I'm gonna have to like, if I don't come up with any with like the next steps by that point, I'm gonna have to probably take a quick break and like regather my energy and write some stuff. But I keep constantly formulating notes, and they keep like formulating into newer stories that then kind of help pave the path to get to where I want to go. So it'll happen in its own timing, which that's a scary thing in the sense of like, because people are always asking you, where do you get your inspiration from? But the scary thing for a creator, I feel, is like, well, when am I going to get this inspiration? When will the lightning strike me, so to speak, and that light bulb goes off? But I actually don't think it's that scary, because I think it's all going to come out in its own timing. You know.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like as you continue to work on something, and as it's like when you're drawing, it's an empty page when you start and you have a
Mm-hmm.
general idea sometimes. And sometimes you don't even have a general idea and you just start drawing. And as you go, Tony McMillan, again, let's pull him back there, you
Yeah.
you put a splot of ink on the page, and then you're just like, so what am I going to make out of this spot of ink? And then just
Yeah.
seeing it how it runs and like crafting it as it comes sometimes just happens. And you start opening up avenues, you start seeing the bigger picture, and that's when that moment hits you, is when you're in the midst of the work. It's rare that the moment hits you when you're like, how, when is it going to happen? How do I find this? Like when you're questioning it, it's like, it's not going to happen. You just got to let
Yeah.
it happen and just push through it. And that's the fun part about making comics. Like I compare it the same way you and Tony do, is like, it's a giant puzzle piece. I
Yeah.
don't always see all the pieces I need right away. I don't really always understand how the pieces are
Some
going to
get hit in
fit
the
right
couch
away.
cushion.
Yeah, and sometimes you just like, oh, it's been here the whole time, and I just had to pull it out, and I found it, and it completes the puzzle. But it's finding how the placements work and rotating pieces until they click in, and just tossing some aside because you know it's the wrong piece, but you're going to try it anyways. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with comics. It's essentially the same exact thing. You just got to keep on at it, and you're never going to finish the puzzle unless you try every piece sometimes and realize
Oh
it
yeah.
was the last piece you needed to fit that part.
Yeah.
But so with your expectations of like yourself and your what you're doing with Cosmic Lion, and how soon this is, like what avenue and like what career are you trying to pave for yourself at this point? Like
Yeah.
what are you trying to do to like self-sustain, and what's your ideal plan to self-sustain as like an artist? It's one of those difficult things, like when I was in college and I was doing music and everything, it seems so set in stone. And then you kind of get the reins taken off and you're like, oh, like I got to figure out how to survive still with this type of thing. Like, what are you
Yeah.
hoping to do and like to keep yourself going?
Yeah. It's kind of hard for me to say right now, because originally when I came into school, I was an art education major, and I thought I was going to be an
Mhm.
art teacher and just do comics I hate to say on the side, because to me it's not a side. To me, it is my legacy and what I'm going to leave behind. But but in terms of like, I guess just financially, teaching then comics at night or on weekends and whatever. But I realized I was taking that major for the wrong reasons. It wasn't for the right reasons. I don't know if I have anything like I was I decided to do art education, like I said, for the wrong reasons because I thought it'd be good job security and whatnot. But I wasn't honest with myself in the sense of like, do I actually truly want to teach? Do I feel like I actually have anything worth teaching? Can I teach? And so I decided, I was like, hey mom, like I feel like I'm doing this for the wrong reasons. I feel like I'm just doing this to impress everyone back home. And you, like, can I change my major to illustration? Because I love drawing. I've been doing it. Heck, I just got published last October, and that's not necessarily like I don't think I'm like high and mighty because of that, but it's just like some fruit has finally come out of me pursuing this drawing thing, and only more is going to follow as like this tree grows. More fruit's going to be born, And she was like, "Okay, go for it," and then I did. So now it's just like the goal that I hope for is that I can do freelance art and illustration, hopefully like cartooning full time. Right now, in order for me to kind of get to that point right now, it's just like, okay, continue to publish with Cosmic Lion for the foreseeable future, and still, like I said, do well in school. Maybe make tiny major adjustments while I still can. But even then, like, I don't know. I just know so many adults that end up actually not doing what they set out to do for their majors. So, like, I don't know. I'm very open-minded. It's hard for me to, like, put something set in stone. The only thing I know is set in stone is I'm not going to stop making things. And as long as I can figure out a situation where I can survive but then still make things, then I'll be a pretty happy guy. I don't know. Like, I'm not hard to please in that respect. And I know a lot of people are hard to please. But I mean, I don't know. It's just that to me, it's just that kind of that simple,
Yeah, to be honest, yeah. I mean, a lot of us do bite the bullet, like with the day job, and then we come back and we're just like, well, this is what makes me happy, and as long as I get to do this and I have the energy to make my art,
Yeah.
it works, and it's one of those things. It's what serves you and builds you up. I mean, dude, I was a creative writing major in college and everything. And it was one of the things like when I dove into it, and I have a BFA, and it's like, okay, I know what this degree is going to get me. Like, I know where it's going, I'm going to have to figure something out, but what it's going to do for me personally and what it's going to create outside of whatever reality that we have to abide by is what I'm looking for. And that's what's going to make me happy. And as long as I'm happy and I can do these things and I have the skill sets to bring these worlds to life that I want to bring, like, what else matters? Like, that's just, it's as simple as that, as long as I get to make my art and as long as I'm happy with it and I can continue to grow and flourish, that's all I care about. And it's worked out for a bit. So, hey, I mean, continue doing it. I'm really happy with like your progress and what you've been doing. But dude, Morgan, this has been like an awesome hour of just like getting a download of your mindset and like you as a person and like how you're going and where all this came about. Frankie Boy stood out to me so quickly once I met you and saw you, and you have so much energy and passion behind it. And you're able to be at a table and like pull people in and like really just like, take in what's happening to you. Cause I think a lot of creators like kind of forget that they work so hard at it. And then you go to a table and you're kind of just sitting there with your art. And it's like, no, like be as excited to like share your art as you are when you're making your art. And I love that about you so much.
Heroes Con. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like, I met so many great heroes and they were like kind to me and stuff like that. But like, there were some people that were just not moving things. And there were some people that I admire that were, I don't want to say they were prickly, but they were not as excited as some other creators. Like Daniel Warren Johnson, like, not only is he a talented dude, but he's also like full of life, full of energy. He's fun to talk to. I won't name any other creators, but there was a few other creators I met that I admire, that I love their work, but it was like pulling teeth trying to talk to them. Like there's this one who I really admire, who, again, I will not name his name just out of like professionalism. But like I had to swing by his table like a second time to finally get him to talk to me about composition. and then he was kind enough to continue to talk to me about like looking at some resources online to study art. And then I got to shake his hand, thank him for the work. So like some people you kind of have to do that with. And like I said, not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I really like, I do gravitate though towards the creators that are like really excited to share what they love with their fans. And I want to be that kind of creator. And actually, that leads me to a piece of advice that Chris Anderson gave me before he left and all of us left back home after IC3. It was breakfast in the morning. Actually, no, it was the night before. It was the after party. He told me this. He said, "Okay, so here are the 3 rules of the industry, of the comic industry, and you could probably apply these to anywhere else. But 3 rules of the comic book industry is be good. So be good at what you do. Be good at what you create. Be nice, as in be nice to your fans, your contemporaries, your publishers. Like just be nice to the people you interact with, and be on time. Hit your deadlines. Hit your goals." Obviously, that last one kind of looks different for me just because Cosmic Lions thing is not deadline based. We have self-imposed deadlines, so we have goals that we're going to hit, but not at the expense of our the quality of our vision. Like he doesn't want us to compromise our vision just for a deadline. He wants us to put on a healthy deadline to where we can still live our life, create the best work we can, and then rock and roll the next thing, So those 3 pieces of those 3 rules, Chris Anderson told me is what makes or breaks a comic book artist career. And if you have all 3 of those things, you're going to be a threat. In the best way possible, of course, but you're going to be a force to reckon with. And like someone like say like Daniel Warren Johnson, like he like as like I said, he's great at what he does. Like no one can argue that he's talented, and he's definitely got the whole thing. He's nice to his fans and he hits his deadlines. Like he's gonna have the great rest of his career, and he's only getting started.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and Daniel's
That's what I aspire to be.
I love his work. I've always been a fan. Max Flowers, when we went to San Diego last year, he got to go and meet him, and it just like blew his mind. And it was very transformative for him too. So I love hearing that from multiple creators who have met this guy and have talked to him and gotten to speak to him. They walk away more inspired right after. So that's a track record with some people. And I love hearing that because like influencing younger generations, influencing other artists and keeping that like momentum going, that's what's going to create more art and better art. And he started with the his own stories and his own ideas before he went to like higher companies and bigger publishers. But like that's where we all want to aspire to be, is that we had this really cool idea and we executed it and we told a story. Where is that going to take us? And look how far he's taken him at that point, and he's still encouraging other artists and doing great favors for people. And dude, the way he inspired you and the way he like proved that he's like, what, take this. Like, it looks like it. Like this, he probably felt that he knew that book was going to help you, and it wasn't just for the money or anything.
Yeah,
and
I showed him my portfolio, and he said he dug it. And I'm still not proud of that. That wasn't the Frankie Boy Monster portfolio, but it was
cool.
It was different. It was the story I did before that. And he said he dug it. And I was like, I was just like, all right, thank you. I just said thank you and went about my life. But my insides were like, oh, he probably hates it, but he's being nice, But I don't know. Who knows? Whatever.
I'm excited to hear about when you guys meet a second time and you get to encounter him and tell him everything.
My plan is to save up $30 to pay him back. Like I want to pay him back because I feel the need to. I've been thinking about that constantly, like because HeroesCon's coming up. Eli and all the Cosmic Lion guys, we're trying to see if we can get in. I'm gonna do my best to pay him back and tell him thank you. So that's a goal as well.
It'll be a fun interaction, and I can't wait to follow up with you on that. That's going to be beautiful.
Yeah,
it means, and just to see where it goes from there. Who knows?
I hope to meet Mike Mignola though. Like I love Daniel Warren Johnson, but like Mike Mignola to me, like he's my George Washington on my Mount Rushmore of favorite cartoonists of all time. Like he's top dog, So hope to meet him someday.
I mean,
but we'll see.
It's cool hearing that, but I see the influence on your art now. The more I think about it, like the shape and structure of some of your images.
He focuses on composition, and that's very important to me. And staging and lighting and atmosphere.
Exactly. And that's, what's cool about your stuff is that like I see the influence, but I also see how you interpret it as well.
Mhm.
And that's the fun part behind it. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, there's the bone of it, but it's like, look how what you turned it into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's so cool.
Yeah. Brandon Graham
But
said that like influence shouldn't just be something like a criticism you get a lot from like young guys like myself is that we might wear our influences on our sleeve and it's just surface level elements. Brandon Graham said that like obviously like Mobius is a big influence on him and so is Hergé, but
mm,
he said that like when you're absorbing influence, you're sort of ingesting them and you're trying to deconstruct their way of thinking and not just the surface elements. And I think so many like people my age that are trying to absorb their influences only kind of copy the surface elements, and they need to
yep.
really think about, they need to actually deconstruct like what's the actual parts that's building this, and not just like what like they need to think about the bricks and the foundations of the house and not just what are you going to paint it, you know.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. Honestly, breaking it down further than just surface level is what you got to do to really understand that stuff. And
Yeah,
studying art, like you just got to sit there and just stare at it and mess with it
I do
and try to
all the
recreate
time.
it and play with it all the time. And that's, some people it just seems tedious, but it's like it's what you got to do. Part of
For
it
me
all,
that's part of the fun though.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
part of the fun. It should be if it's genuine, I think.
Honestly, sometimes doing that is like funner than when I'm trying to create my own thing. And I'm just like, okay, this is a lot easier on my brain right now. It's been a long day. I'm just going to
Yeah,
focus on this. And sometimes it's just an easier way and still make progress in your art. And
yeah.
people forget that. Sometimes the easiest things you can do are still progress.
Yeah, it's kind of invisible to outsiders though. Like inspiration, like it's
Mm.
this abstract concept, but it's real. But it's only real in the head of like a creator. But
Yeah.
like an outside party that is a buyer or reader can't see it, or it's harder for them to see it. You know, but it's a part of the
Yeah.
process that needs to kind of be talked about, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And dude, and maybe we'll talk to him about that more the next time we have you on. I didn't even realize we're hitting an hour on our. This
Oh,
was a
I'm
very
sorry.
cool
I'm so sorry. I
conversation.
didn't mean to
No, dude,
take up your
I
time.
love. I mean, it's one of those things when you get sucked in, and it's just a
Yeah,
blast the whole time, you know. But Morgan, dude, this has been awesome. I can't.
I
I'm so
appreciate it.
happy for you. I'm happy for your success. I'm so proud
Thank
of like
you.
what you've been doing, and Cosmic Lion and all of them are just such a great team for you to be joining up. It's I'm so excited to watch you grow and see where
Thank
this
you.
goes from here. That's the
I
cool
really
part. I
appreciate it.
mean, you're a fun person putting out fun, very passionate and enthusiastic art and books. So this next, 5 years from now, I'm hyped to see where you're standing and what you're putting out and how far you've gotten in the stories you're trying to tell. So it's
Thank
more
you.
like anticipation that I'm really like, I just want to see it happen already. You know what I mean? Like I want to
Yeah,
fast
yeah,
forward
yeah.
in
Me,
5 years and
too.
find out,
Me too.
like,
Me too.
but thank you
I'm
for
ready to have my
so
old trade paperback, you know?
Hey, I mean, honestly, at that point, the way you're pushing out stuff, like I wouldn't be surprised. And we'll, hopefully this gets you like some more attention because I think more people need to be aware of what you're up to. But thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time today too. I
You
really
too.
appreciate the conversation. And when we work
Really.
on launching our live drawing show, I'll put you on the list because I think you'd be a blast to hang out with and do that.
Oh, that'd be fun. I'll have to see if I can make room for with my schedule. That'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. We'll look into it. We'll schedule out something. But dude, before we sign off, why don't you tell everyone where they could find you and your art and what you'll be up to for the rest of 2024?
Yeah. Okay. So you can find me on Instagram at Herron_art. You can either type in Herron_art or Morgan B. Herron. I'm also on Facebook as Morgan B. Herron. Let's see. You can buy Frankie Boy Monster at the moment off of the Cosmic Lion Productions website at www.cosmiclionproductions.com. You can either get the book for $10 plus shipping, or you can get the $5 PDF option for $5. Either way, I want this thing as accessible as possible. So if you can't afford the printed book because you live overseas or it's intimidating, then pay for a $5 PDF and enjoy it on your iPad or computer. And yeah, that's what we'll be doing for every single issue going forward. So, and
Nice.
issue 2 is a work in progress. I actually color the 16th page today. And it's all in that's lettered. So I got 15 left to go. And we should be looking at a May or June release date. So it'll
Sick.
definitely at least be hitting the Comix Wellspring printers before Heroes Con. So whether issue 2 is ready for Heroes Con or not, we'll see. But it'll definitely be in print before then. So
Sick. I'm super excited for that. I'm super, super happy. Any other conventions besides Heroes Con you might be hitting up?
Let's see. If you are in the Tennessee area, I haven't gotten confirmation yet, but I am endeavoring to go to Nashville Comic Con to table there as a vendor. And I have a bunch of Frankies that I got from Eli at IC3. So I got some, if you want to meet me locally in the Tennessee area, go to Nashville Comic Con. And if I'm able to get in, I should be tabling there. So, and I think that's it for the moment. It's kind of like, I don't have the most disposable income as a college student, so I got to be very choosy with the right conventions. But I definitely thought like a local con would be good, and then obviously Heroes Con because that's for creators. And really excited to hopefully table with the Cosmic Lion crew, get to stand shoulder to shoulder like with like creators that I admire next Heroes Con, and like this would be my second Heroes Con. It'd be my first Heroes Con as a creator, which is kind of crazy to think about, but yeah.
So fun, dude. That's awesome, dude. So happy, so excited. I might be at Heroes Con, so if I do, we'll definitely be hanging out. So hopefully we get to hang out again. But thank you so much, Morgan. This has been a blast, and so much insight for everyone, and just a lot of inspiration came out of this. So thank you so much. And for everyone else, all of our listeners and watchers and whatnot, thank you so much for checking out another amazing creator. We have a lot of new episodes booked up for the next couple of months. A lot of new announcements we'll be doing for Inspired Inc. and CWS. We're almost fully into the new place and like wrapping all that up and really getting really efficient with all our streamlines. So we want to thank everyone who orders through CWS for your patience and understanding during the transition that we're doing. A lot of great upgrades. But as always, thank you for joining. Thanks for hanging. Stay creative and stay inspired. Looking for high quality printing, fast turnaround, and the industry's best customer service? Look no further than Comix Wellspring. Trusted by thousands of indie comic creators, Comix Wellspring is proven to be the go-to comic book printer. So when you're ready to bring your comic books to life, go to comicswellspring.com and be sure to check out one of the best platforms to sell your physical and digital comics online, the CWS Bookstore. Remember to subscribe, hit that notification bell to see our lives come out twice every single week on YouTube and podcast platforms. And also tag us when you share your favorite episodes and moments from the show. And remember, creators, thanks for hanging, keep creating, and stay inspired.
Bring your comics with Comix Wellspring.